Okay, so first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. I want to thank the Minneapolis DFL for sponsoring the event. This is really awesome to see everyone here. My name is Josh Bassais. I am a proud lifelong resident of Minneapolis. I'm a proud father of two, and I'm a homeowner. The reason why I'm running, and I feel this in my heart, and really by talking to so many of you, is that I believe Minneapolis is at an inflection point, a very serious inflection point. And this city is in dire need of ideas and of a spirit of collaboration and finding common ground and solving problems together that has been absent for quite some time. And from talking to you, that's something that is expected from city leaders and that is expected from the new council and the new mayor. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. With 25 years of experience in contract negotiation, budget management, and most importantly, stakeholder collaboration, I believe I have a really unique skill set that could answer that challenge to bring that spirit to City Hall. And most importantly, I believe that I can answer the many very serious issues that our community faces with public safety, housing, and economic opportunities. I thank you again for being here, and I hope to earn your support, and I look forward to the continued conversations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. My name is Soren Stevenson. I am running for City Council here in Ward 8, primarily because my neighbors asked me to. I am a renter. I am an APSME member who works as a homeless outreach worker, and I'm a survivor of Minneapolis police violence. In 2020, at a peaceful protest after the murder of George Floyd, a Minneapolis police officer shot me. I lost my left eye and most of my sense of smell. And I've been left to answer the question, who am I? What does it mean to be a white man shot in the struggle for black liberation? And what am I supposed to do about it? I've come away with that I have a duty to be a part of building a comprehensive public safety system that keeps us safe, where you can have the expectation of being able to walk your dog at night and be safe, and have the expectation that when you speak to a Minneapolis police officer, you'll be treated with dignity and respect. At the same time, I work as a homeless outreach worker. I see the ins and outs of the crisis on our streets every single day. I talk to people about what got them to the streets and what's keeping them there, and what we need to do to get out of it. Unfortunately, on both of these issues, the mayor and his allies have failed to deliver true public safety and true homes for all, like we all agree. And we all agree on that. So I'm running because I want to see major change on these issues as opposed to sticking with the status quo that is simply not working in this city. I'm really happy to be at this debate. I'm really glad that you all are here. I appreciate with all of you, and I'm looking forward to chatting more afterwards and chatting more on the phone. Thank you.
Josh, you won the coin toss, so I think you get to decide, do you want to answer this first question first, or do you want to let Soren answer first?
I'll answer first.
Okay, not afraid of a challenge. Okay, Josh, the first question is on homelessness and encampment response. Unsheltered homelessness is a pressing human rights issue, as well as a quality of life concern for many Ward 8 residents. What would you do to meet the needs of our unsheltered and sheltered populations in addressing this issue?
On now? Yeah, so for me, the encampment issue is a very personal issue, and that's really in relations to where I live in the ward. Myself and my family live very close to the 5th Precinct, very close to the 31st Street Bridge, and very close to Lake and Nicollet. We have seen the abhorrent conditions throughout the years of at these encampments. And over time, it has become increasingly difficult for me to explain to my children why in a country of this wealth, a state of this wealth, a city of this wealth, that people are left to live in these conditions. And we have run out of answers to tell our children. And I think in many ways the city has run out of answers. And I think, very simply, they have not met people where they're at. This is a very complex issue. The issue of trauma, the issue of mental illness, the issue of drug addiction has to be addressed on an individual basis. And in my opinion, it just has not been. I'd also like to see data involved in this, and really summing up where resources should be dedicated to. And I believe the city hasn't really accomplished that either. And the encampment sweeps themselves affects everybody, including the folks who live around those encampments like myself. And so there has to be a better solution, and I do believe that you have to meet people where they're at and really provide wraparound care. On the front end, find the proper counseling and resources that these folks need, and obviously housing, and then provide not just a handout, but a hand up into employment opportunities and real stable housing, and have all of our neighbors be considered human beings like just the rest of us and treated as such.
Do you want me to repeat it, Soren, or are you good to go?
Homelessness?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
there you go.
Great.
2 minutes.
So, as I said, I work as a homeless outreach worker. Yesterday, I spoke with a guy, we'll call him Mohammed. We were talking, I asked, are you interested in housing? And he said, yes, I'm very interested. And so I referred him to come into our office so we can go through the process together. And he said, I've never been able to work because I was a child soldier, and I don't have the mental capacity to work. And so this is what, in some cases, we're dealing with. We're dealing with folks who want so much to be a part of our community, want so much to contribute to our community, and have been pushed out either by city policy or by trauma in their past. I have worked hands-on with this, and unfortunately I have seen that the city is not being a partner in getting people up off the streets. The city is a barrier. Think about that. We have been dealing with this crisis for so long, and it is affecting us. We have encampments in our neighborhoods, and the city has not shown a place where people can go. The city has only said where people cannot go. And what that's meant is that we have encampments in neighborhoods instead of an organized place with trash, sanitation, and security. So when I'm on the council, should I be lucky enough to be elected, I want to work head on this issue, dealing with folks and knowing the way that the city needs to show up to help the county and what the county does. I work directly with county workers every day, see the incredible work that they do, and I see how the city is not matching that energy. I'm really excited to get to work on this because I've worked on it. I've worked on it for the last year. I have been working directly with homeless people, and I'm ready to see the city step up and help Hennepin County eliminate homelessness. It was promised back when the mayor first ran, but we can deliver on it.
Time. Two very well-timed answers, I have to say. You both starting off very strong here. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Okay. We're going to move on to public safety, and we're now going to switch. So Soren will answer this question first, and then Josh. So here's the question. Crime and public safety is a perennial concern of Minneapolis residents. What would you do to ensure the security of person and property for Ward 8 residents?
Yeah, like I said before, we need a comprehensive public safety system in this city. I have two values that I have no interest in compromising on. One is safety and feeling safe, and the other is accountability and holding officers to a high regard of their behavior. These two things are not in conflict with each other, no matter what the newspaper or the moneyed interests of this city have to say. We can and should have both. We can and should have a city where you can feel safe to walk your dog at night. You can feel safe to walk in a business district and browse as the sun goes down or any time of day. We can and should have that city. I want to be a part of crafting that. I want to be a part of crafting more options for when you call 911 so that the right person with the right training shows up at the right time. We've seen through studies commissioned by the city that 40% of calls don't need to be responded to by an armed officer. So in this environment where we have far fewer officers than we're used to, we need to give them a hand. We need to get some other options out there so that officers can focus on the work that they desperately need to do, and that other people who are trained for specific situations like substance abuse, like mental health emergencies, investigators when someone's broken into your garage, they can respond in good time to those issues, while armed officers can respond to where they're needed as well. I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm excited to get to work on this. And this is in no small part why I've been endorsed by a large group of elected officials and community groups from Take Action to Ilhan Omar and others who want to see Minneapolis be the best city that it can be because it's best for all of us.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a big believer in very much a holistic view of public safety. First and foremost, I believe that we should be fully staffed on many fronts, including with our police force. In addition to, we should be fully staffed in our emergency response folks, the 911 folks answering the calls to help our residents with emergencies. I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that recruiting-wise, our police force should be as diverse as the community that they represent. I also believe that we should continue to try to recruit folks who live in the city and that know the community. There once was a time that was a prerequisite to be a cop. You had to live in the city, and I fully stand behind that because that's the best way to know the community that you serve. I also believe, as Soren said, in a holistic approach, in having mental health assistance and interruption, violence interrupters and domestic violence interrupters as well. And most importantly, I would like all of those factions, all of those various pieces of public safety to work together, to coordinate together in the spirit of having a safer city. And I say that from a personal note. I know many probably here tonight have been affected by violent crime, have had family that's been affected by violent crime. And it's very, very concerning when you feel like you're alone. And I believe that officer presence is a deterrent in that fashion. I also believe that things like petty crime lead to quality of life issues. For instance, the last remaining pharmacy within my neighborhood has been shuttered. And the only reason that happened is because of petty theft. We no longer have a pharmacy within a mile of where I live. And that's an issue, and that's a problem. That's a livability issue, and we can do better.
Sorry, I forgot to offer this on round one, but we do have the option for a rebuttal, so I'm going to ask Soren, do you want to rebut anything there, or should we move on? No. Okay, we're going to go to a slightly different topic for now, and we will loop back to some of those themes that we were just touching on. But we're going to go to property taxes, an issue near and dear to my heart. Here's the question, which is going to go to Josh first. The collapse of downtown commercial property valuations is threatening to put upward pressure on property tax rates and payments for homeowners and small businesses across the city. The loss of federal funds may further squeeze the city budget. What will you do to balance the need to fund strong public services while managing growing property tax liabilities for Ward 8 residents? Did you get all that?
Yeah, that was a long question. I think first of all, it's worth noting who is impacted the most by property tax increases. That's working class families, and that's our seniors in our communities that are in large part on fixed incomes. And so when those property taxes go up, it's very, very, very harmful to their livability. When it comes to commercial districts, it's worth pointing out too that commercial property tax is basically double of what a residential property tax is. And so when you have a situation like downtown Minneapolis where some have come up with a solution of turning downtown Minneapolis into all residential, the math simply doesn't add up. And I would like to reinvent and reimagine many of our commercial spaces. For the last 12 or 15 years, I've worked in corporate America, and I truly don't believe that people will be staying at home forever. And I think downtown will have a resurgence at some point. And we really need to factor in that revenue that comes in from commercial spaces and the benefit to the folks who work downtown as well. And again, we have to get creative with our funding, and we have to be, again, mindful of the folks who are being impacted by those property tax increases severely.
Soren, go ahead.
Yeah, property tax rise, it's been precipitous in the last decade or so. It's a problem. Seniors living on a fixed income, working class people, as my opponent said. What I want to see from the city is I want to see a city that is proactive in growing its tax base and is proactive in finding new sources of revenue that don't rely on property taxes alone. There are a variety of things that we can do. Supporting downtown through a land value tax and looking to do income tax at the city on highest earners, $500,000 or more. These are things that other cities around the country do, and we need to do them here in the city. Here in this city, if the state would allow it. Because what we need from our city is we need a city that is well functioning, that is well resourced, because we simply do not have the level of service in this city that we should, and that in some cases we used to. So I'm very much committed to growing the tax base, to growing new sources of revenue that aren't falling on, are you able to stay in your home? At the same time, we need to be looking at ways to help seniors and working class people, ways to offset the costs or let seniors downsize and stay on their property or in their neighborhoods without having to leave the neighborhood and without maybe even having to sell their house. So there's plenty of things that we can do in this city. I'm excited to get to work on them, and I'm excited to work with you on making those things happen.
Josh, you chance for a rebuttal?
Yeah, I'd like to just call out a couple of things in regards to property tax, and in particular to our city budget. In the last 20 years, our tax levy from a property tax standpoint has gone up over 50%. Since 2022, our city budget has increased by $400 million. So we need to be a lot more diligent about our budgeting because it affects folks, especially considering the federal climate and the money that is no longer coming into our city and probably won't for quite some time. So we have to be better stewards of the budget. We have to be fiduciary stewards for the folks who we represent because it trickles down and affects everybody.
Can I give you the chance to respond for 1 minute as well?
I couldn't agree more. We're gonna face tough times here in the next few years, and it's gonna be important that your city council member is connected to you and hearing directly from you about what you want to see. I'm endorsed by Take Action. I'm endorsed by Unite Here Local 17. These are your neighbors, and I'll be speaking with these groups and speaking with you directly about what do we want to see kept and what can go. But I don't want to focus on just the next 4 years and cutting everything without having a view for the future about what are we going to do about growing our taxes. so that we're not here every 4 years, every time there's a Republican in office, the city of Minneapolis is hitting a huge crunch. We need to be looking into the future at the same time that we're tightening our belt here in the city. And I'm ready to get to work with you and listen to you about what we're doing and what stays and what goes.
Okay, now that we've got them sparring, we're going to get more controversial. This next question is on urban planning. Every 10 years, cities release a comprehensive plan which outlines zoning and development goals for the next 2 decades. These plans comprise designs for street rebuilds, parks, bike lanes, and more. This year, Minneapolis will begin considering its 2050 plan. What are your priorities for that plan, and how would you seek to engage with the formulation process? Soren, your turn to respond.
I love this question, mostly because I'm a nerd, but I am excited to work on the 2050 plan because the 2050 plan is where we get to plan for vibrancy. We get to plan for a city that is interesting, one that is affordable, and one that's safe. There's things in the 2050 plan that we'll need to be looking at. Are we going to be allowing developers to build the type of homes that we want to buy, that we want to rent? Or are we going to continue to prescribe a specific type of home that's not meeting affordability needs and not beautiful in the way that we really want? The 2050 plan is going to be the place where we get to plan for a city where kids can run and play in the street and their parents don't have to have laser eyes on them. We can plan for a city where there can be more coffee shops and stores and everything in your neighborhood. So you can walk to a grocery store, you can walk to go window shop, and you can build wealth in your community. This is vital for our Black and brown communities and our working class communities to let folks open businesses in the places that they own already. I am excited to be a part of planning for a city that is fun, that's interesting, that's easy to get around. That is what the 2050 plan is really about, as well as planning for a sustainable city. So sustainable in our transportation, ready to meet climate change with the level of urgency that it demands, and planning for network geothermal. This is heating homes and cooling homes downtown and in other denser areas in a way that is without carbon entirely. It'll lower energy bills. We can begin planning this now so that in the future we have the sustainable, the safe, and the vibrant city that we know we can and should have.
Yeah, so when it comes to the 2040 plan and the 2050 plan, you know, I think it's important to talk about density and how we grow our city, but also talk about the resources that should be available in all communities. And I'm speaking specifically of food insecurity. And how are we addressing that? Are we planning on having clinics within those neighborhoods? Are we planning to have pharmacies within those neighborhoods? Are we planning to have services that folks can walk to as well? And a part of that is the livability. A part of that is public safety. A part of that is economic opportunity. And that's a really, really key point to me, is that this city historically has had a huge economic disparity between people of color and white folks in this city, and we need to address it. We need to address it now, and that comes through sustainable jobs, working class jobs, career building jobs. I come from the building trades. That's a perfect place to go, especially in the time of AI. If you can do anything with your hands, I suggest anybody go that route, and I would like to see the city provide those opportunities within the city of Minneapolis, not have to take an hour-long bus ride one way to get to work. And that's the thing, those are the things we need to build towards. Bridging that gap between economic disparities between black and white folks, and really focusing on family building, sustainable jobs that you can afford a home and build generational wealth in, just like I did with my situation in purchasing my mother's home. Everyone should have that opportunity. Everyone should have that ability to live and prosper in the city that they love.
Soren, rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, so I was talking with Jeremy Marshick the other day. He runs a small business out of his home called Lumber Stash. That is in Kingfield, and it's a great business. He recycles old lumber and sells it, and he does most of it on an e-bike, which is quirky and fun. And that is illegal in this city. And I hope the city never enforces that rule on him, because he makes our city better, and he increases our property tax base, and he makes our city more interesting. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, letting people all across the city, in your neighborhood and in every neighborhood across the city, to open little businesses that they want, that they have a skill at. This is the kind of thing that will allow people to build wealth, and that will allow people to walk around and go to the interesting and creative ideas that their neighbors have. I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to take this as a chance to plan for a more prosperous city.
Okay, let's go to workers, labor, and the economy. So this question will go to, oh, now I've lost track. Josh, this is your turn, right? No. Yes? Okay. A thriving city requires dynamic businesses and access to economic opportunity for all. What will you do to create a more vibrant local economy for both businesses and their workers in Ward 8?
Yeah, so I would love to, kind of transform the narrative of just, minimum wage jobs and into sustainable jobs that'll last a career. And, I think there are grants and opportunities that the city can provide, as well as partnering with labor organizations, apprenticeship programs, nonprofit job training programs that can provide real skills for the jobs of the future, and especially when we talk about the green economy and the opportunity there to have folks work right here in Minneapolis, work within their community, installing solar, geothermal, insulation programs for older homes. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a win-win, especially if folks can save on their electrical bills and have a more efficient home, as well as building towards our carbon-free goal in 2050, and actually having that be a reality at some point, in addition to putting people to work. I'm a person who's been at the negotiating table, and I've bargained on behalf of working people for a great part of my career. So I'm very passionate about that, and I'm very passionate about uplifting working folks and having them have sustainable, meaningful, impactful jobs that can last a lifetime, and even better, a union job with a pension and benefits and the things that my family have enjoyed as union members throughout my life, and I think everyone should be afforded that opportunity. And the right to organize, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm excited to talk about it again. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about vibrancy, because that is what we need in the city. We need the city to be focused on how can we be vibrant. And a key way to be vibrant is for people to have family-sustaining jobs. I'm going to talk about George Floyd Square here. I know there will be another question on that. But in George Floyd Square, there's a coffee shop called Bichota. It opened recently, and it opened unionized with Unite Here right away. This is the type of model we want to see across the city. It can work, and it can work right here. In George Floyd Square, we need to be, as a city, focusing on how we can put immediate investments into that intersection and into the neighborhood to make sure that businesses can open up, make sure that we're building out the strong Black cultural district that 38th Street used to be and can be again. I want to be a part at the city of planning for and supporting vibrant business, vibrant community spaces where people can be out, people can sustain themselves with good jobs, and people can open the businesses that they know that they can run. The city can be a partner in this, working with local community groups who invest in entrepreneurs who invest in Indigenous and Black and people of color entrepreneurs. Those groups are out there, they exist, and the city has yet to partner with them in the way that it should. I'm excited to do that, and I'm excited to partner with the unions across the city, Unite Here being one, many others across the city, in bringing good union jobs across folks who live in every neighborhood in the city, in every neighborhood in the ward. I'm excited about this.
Okay. That's scary. Okay, let's drill down. One of the most immediate planning, this question is on George Floyd Square, the future of George Floyd Square. One of the most immediate planning questions for Ward 8 is the future of George Floyd Square on 38th in Chicago. Some have advocated closing the intersection to through traffic and creating a permanent memorial or public space, while others, including some local businesses, want it to remain open to car traffic. What do you want for the future of George Floyd Square? That's you, Josh.
Okay. I've been very upfront about my position on George Floyd Square, and it's very simple to me. Not just business owners, but the people who live in the area of George Floyd Square want an open street. They want an open street to return to some vitality. They want an open street to show some resilience on that corner. But I also believe that there must be a permanent memorial to the man who was murdered in that corner. And it must be a memorial worth the gravity of what happened on that May evening. And it should be something along the lines of the Lorraine Motel where Dr. King was murdered. That's the type of gravity that event warrants. And so, not to mention, Soren talks about the businesses on Chicago Avenue, and I know the owner of Bajota, and I've had office hours there, and it's not very busy, and there's not much traffic, and that's for a reason. The street is not functional as is. The memorial is not functional as is. I bring in visitors from all around the country. Many of them are people of color, and they want to take their time and they want to appreciate the moment and the heaviness of that monument. But now they have to stand in the middle of the street to appreciate that. They also have no place to go except for the new coffee shop, which is beautiful and fabulous. But folks want to take their time, they want to absorb it, they want to appreciate the moment that they're in, and they simply cannot do that with the current condition of George Floyd Square. Not to mention, the number 5 bus used to go down Chicago Avenue. It's the busiest bus line in the state of Minnesota, where people can go to work, they can make their doctor's appointments, they can take their children to various events. Now they have to walk 4 or 5 blocks down to Park Avenue to catch the number 5 bus, which is extremely inconvenient for the folks who live there, and it's not right.
Soren, go ahead.
Here in Minneapolis, we have a really dubious award. We have somehow failed to take action on police accountability and failed to deliver a vibrant and respectful memorial at George Floyd Square. Current leadership for the last decade has not invested, and beyond the last decade, has not invested in 38th in Chicago in a way that they need to. What I want to see is immediate investments in that corridor and in that intersection. There are things that we do not have to wait for a big street reconstruction. We do not have to wait for years of planning to improve the lighting on that street. We don't have to wait to improve ADA accessibility on the sidewalks, repairing sidewalks. We don't have to wait to do these things. We can do them right away, and I want to see that happen. Just the other day, I was down at George Floyd Square. I was talking to Angela Harrelson, the aunt of George Floyd, and one thing that she said that is true of everyone who I talked to there, and I talked to in the whole neighborhood, is this political situation we have is crazy. The status quo around George Floyd Square is crazy, and it is not meeting anyone's needs. So when I get in city council, I want to be a part of immediate investments in that intersection. I want to be a part of integrating it into this 38 Thrive plan that was spearheaded by Andrea Jenkins and Angela Connolly, among others, so that we can have a vibrant, a safe, and a respectful area that is both the international landmark that it can and should be, as well as a functioning neighborhood node. We can and should have a George Floyd Square that is an international place where people can come, get coffee, peruse the businesses, and reflect and learn and think about the movement that came out of the murder of George Floyd.
So the simple fact is, though, there will be no vibrancy, there will be no investment. There has not been an investment for 5 years, and it will be 6 years now, because 9 folks on that city council decided to go against the wishes of the people that live there, and go against the wishes of the business owners that are trying to survive and trying to make a living. That's wrong. So there it sits for another year. And the quagmire of city council is directly responsible for that. And that's wrong. And the people of that area deserve so much more. The memory of George Floyd deserves so much more. And as Soren said, this is not a local monument. This is not a state monument. This is a global monument. It should be treated as such. Should be treated as such, permanent. Because the fact is, if it stays the way it is now, people will forget 5, 10 years from now. And none of us want that. None of us want that.
Soren, a minute to respond if you want to.
The mayor has been in power for about a decade, and he has done nothing on George Floyd Square. After the murder of George Floyd, we were sent out to have a public works project at George Floyd Square, not racial reconciliation, not police accountability, not a right to return of people who were displaced by the freeway going through, not investment into businesses that had been pushed out through decades and decades of redlining. We have not had investment in this neighborhood for decades, and that has continued under Jacob Fry and his allies. We need to invest now. We can't wait for a street reconstruction. We can't wait for tomorrow in order to invest. There are things we can do today, and there are things we can do in the near future that Jacob Fry and his allies have not done, but I want to do immediately on the council.
Okay, so we're doing pretty well on time. We've got 12 minutes plus a little bit. We've got 2 questions left and the rapid fire, so I think we want to do these last 2 questions. We might have time for 1 or 2 audience questions, and then we'll do rapid fire. We should be able to wrap well ahead of 8. Okay, so we're going to go to housing. The rapidly increasing cost of living has been a pressing public concern for several years. Housing is the largest component of household costs. What policies or initiatives would you pursue to promote affordable housing in Ward 8? Soren, this is your one to answer first.
I love this question. As a housing nerd myself, I worked at a co-op developer making co-op housing around the state, primarily with working class folks. We can have home ownership for many, many more people than we do now by diversifying the types of homes that people can buy and diversifying the types of homes that get built in this city. We're frankly too stingy in this city about what can get built. We're not building the homes that people want, and for that reason we have too few homes, and we see that in increased homelessness. We see that in families bought a home with 2%, but now they've had more kids and they want to move, but they can never leave. They can never leave because there's not a home big enough that they can afford. We see this lack of housing throughout rising rents, throughout rising home prices. It doesn't have to be this way. We can have a city where the homes that you want to live in, the homes that you want to downsize in or upsize in, depending on what's going on with your family, can be built and are at prices that everyone can afford. This is something that we can do. We can have the type of vibrant city, the type of city where children are playing in the street again. It starts with housing. Housing is the center of almost all of the issues that we have in this city. Be it segregation in our schools, be it be it segregation in our schools, be it the lack of children in our schools, be it the feeling that some of our neighborhoods are feeling a little dead. It's because we haven't invested in the type of homes that we need, and it's because we haven't taken a chance to let people build things that are interesting, and I want to see that change. I want to see a city where the home that you want to live in can be built and can be modified here in the city.
First of all, there's far too many empty lots in Ward 8 in the city of Minneapolis that just sit vacant year after year, decade after decade. And with the homeless crisis that we have, the housing crisis that we have, that's unacceptable. And to me, in the early 2000s, we used things like land use grants and got folks into new homes and built on those lots, and we can do that again. We established cooperatives with folks who wanted to live in a community and have a stake in their community. We did that, and we can do that again. But I think the key to it all is public investment. If we really want to have a say in rents and affordability, the city has to have some say in that discussion, and that comes with public investment, the expectation of real affordable units, deeply affordable units. The fact is, we need to build more regardless. I was a renter out of college in the 90s, and there were no apartments then. It hasn't gotten any better. So it is truly supply and demand. The market is a kind of a bearer of that bad news, and we need to build more. We need to open up zoning. We also need to look at things as deep and as granular as construction costs. Can the city buy in bulk? Can the city invest in materials before these insane tariffs go into place? Well, they already have. But can we get ahead of that? Also, most importantly, are we being mindful? Are we being planful as a city? Are we staying on budget with the projects that we're doing? And if we're not, that's a dereliction of duty. That's a dereliction of planning and processes and the base things that the city council should be doing on all things considered for public investment, and that's what we need to do.
Soren, 1 minute to respond.
I'd just like to address the public investment part of this. I work with people every day to get them into the affordable homes that we have here now, and I can tell you the rules about getting people in are keeping people on the streets. The rules about who can live where is preventing people from moving into homes that are affordable. We can spend almost an infinite amount of money on the current system that we have, and we will not fix the problem. As someone who works day in and day out in our housing system, I am ready to get on the Minneapolis City Council to work against those rules and change the things that are keeping our housing system brittle, keeping people out of homes that they should be in. I'm ready to do this on day one. I have the knowledge and the policy experience to make it happen.
So, I mean, for me, this is a very personal issue. I grew up a product of a single mom, and we grew up in apartments. And thankfully, we had stable housing in those apartments. And that's the bit that we need to talk about, the stability of that housing, the stability of those rental units. And we're failing on both ends. So, we can provide temporary housing, but that definitely doesn't solve the problem. I'm a firm believer in home ownership and finding mechanisms to have folks build generational wealth, like my mom did and passed on to my family. And we need to find ways to make that happen. We need to find financing options and subsidies that folks can own a home and have a stake in their community, a true stake in their community, and an opportunity to pass wealth on to generations. And I think that's huge.
Okay, we've got one more pre-prepared question, and then we'll go to the audience for one or two, and we'll rapid fire and we'll get at it. Okay, this last question is about responding to hostile federal government. As dysfunction in the federal government accelerates, state and local governments will become more important stewards of public needs and protections. how do you see your role as a potential city council member in ensuring Minneapolis residents, including undocumented residents, can continue to safely access the programs and services they rely on?
Yeah, so for me, again, I've got a bit of experience in this. I was a business agent in the hotel and restaurant union, and I was faced with employers mentioning no match letters. And what that meant is that the paperwork that that particular employee submitted didn't match the social security number that they submitted. So what would happen is those folks would go into the shadows. They would disappear. And here we are again with our immigrant communities being threatened with having to disappear. And the one thing I will say as city council member and as an official with the city is that I will not enable ICE. I will not expect our law enforcement to be immigration enforcers. That's not their job. And as a sanctuary city, it's our duty to protect those folks, 110%. And so in regards to the feds in general, we're in for a very shaky time. And my commitment to everyone is that I stand in absolute solidarity with all marginalized communities, not just in Ward 8, but throughout the city. And I will fight like hell to make sure they feel safe and they feel supported, and let them know we're all in this together, because that is what we do here in the city of Minneapolis. We are an immigrant community. We have a proud tradition of immigrant communities. I'm old enough to remember when East Asians came here. I'm old enough to remember when Somalis first, East Africans first came here. And the contributions that they've made to the city are immense and should be celebrated every single day.
I was speaking the other day with a young woman who married an American citizen, but she has a green card. She used to feel like her green card was the golden ticket, and now she wonders if she's going to get deported. That's the situation that we're in right now, and that's what our Ward 8 neighbors are experiencing. I have close relationship with immigrant communities, with immigrants themselves, and with groups who are advocating for the rights and the prosperity and the safety of immigrants. We need to go beyond being a sanctuary city. It's frankly the least that we can do to be a sanctuary city. We need to do things like propose what a punishment would be if an officer does collaborate with ICE. Currently, we don't have one. So we need to, as a city, be saying, you know what, not only are we a sanctuary city, but we're going to go one step further and say, if you collaborate with ICE to take our neighbors out of here, you're fired. That is step one. That is the smallest thing we can do, but is what we need to do. Now, when I was talking with this young woman about what she wants to see the city do to make her feel safe in the city and make her friends who are also immigrants feel safe in the city, is for the city to be a co-partner with groups who are putting on activities that say, you matter, and you're welcome here. One example of this is Mexican Independence Day. We shut down parts of Lake Street, parts of Bloomington. It's a fantastic event, and the city needs to go to those organizers ASAP and say, we're going to make sure that this event happens, and we're going to make sure that your community can feel safe to come out to this and really celebrate. We're going to make sure that there's security there, and we're going to make sure that immigrant communities know that they're welcome, and they see that through the action of the city. It goes beyond saying we're a sanctuary city. We have to put our money where our mouth is.
Okay, it's a bit of a logistical challenge, but I think we're open to at least one question from the audience. So raise your hand if you have one. Okay, I saw this one clearly go up first, so I'm going to go. Are you able to shout it out?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Cal. I'm a long-term renter in Greenfield, just a few blocks away, and I have had the privilege of having landlord mistakes take care of me, but I know a lot of my neighbors are worried about the security of their homes and whether they're going to be able to stay there, if rents are going to go up. I want to know from both of you what your thoughts are on more renter protections in the city, and if you're protecting tenants and keeping them in their homes.
And just because we do want to make sure we get out on time, let's go 1 minute each if we can. I think Josh started the last one. So, Soren, you'll start this one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great question. Thanks for the question, Raquel. I'm a renter myself. I got a text today from my landlord saying, we're finding a lot of dog poop around our properties across the city. If we find any more, we're gonna fine every dog owner $100. Turns out that's illegal. That is not allowed in this city, but you wouldn't know it because renters don't always know their rights. What are your rights around collective punishment? And what's your recourse? Your recourse, I just learned from talking to a housing lawyer in the back, is you can go to court. You can fight it in eviction, or you can pay it and then sue them on the back end. That's not real. So I'm just supposed to give in? I'm just supposed to pay $100 for collective punishment? No. We need more renter protections in this city. We need renters to know what their rights are. We need to make sure that people can put down deep roots as renters.
Yeah, so I'll take that a step further. I'm an organizer at heart, and I believe in solidarity and organizing amongst groups, and renters are being one of the main blocks that I think has an opportunity to bolster the renters union that used to be. And I would wholeheartedly, as a city council member, support that movement. Not just in name alone, but in resources as well, because I do believe that there should be a foundation and protection for the folks who are vulnerable to bad players and to bad owners. And there's many of those folks in our city. I was a renter once too, and I can fully relate to that. And I think, again, coming together as renters and working with the city in collaboration, I think would be a really effective tool.
All right, 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
So there was a questionnaire that went out from We Love Minneapolis, the Republican-founded corporate landlord group, and it asked the question, do you support more renter protections in this city? And my opponent said no, not a single one. It also asked, do you support any kind of rent stabilization? 50% cap, 75% rent increase cap. My opponent said no. My opponent is not putting his money where his mouth is when it comes to renter protections. We need to look out for our renters. We need to do something that works for everybody. Everyone agrees that renters deserve to feel safe and put down deep roots in your neighborhood.
Yeah, so I would just say, how well is that going in St. Paul? They're backpedaling like crazy in St. Paul because the developers will not build in St. Paul. So how are we solving our housing crisis if we can't build more units? So that's in specific to rent control itself. And it's not that I don't support defending the rights of renters, and it's not that I defend corporate builders and predatory owners, but it's rent control itself has proven itself a massive failure in St. Paul, and I just don't want to see that happen here in Minneapolis.
Leave it to two Minnesotans to wait for, an hour into a debate to start debating.
Just get warmed up.
Good job, guys. Okay, let's go one more audience question from this side of the room. I saw some hands up. Yours is shot up there. How about, yep.
Hi, I'm not as loud. Maybe you can repeat my question, but are there any other cities outside of the state or city leaders that you look to as examples or heroes or ways that you want to emulate in our city? And how those are important to you and how we do it?
So any other cities or leaders in other cities or other places that you look to as examples, inspiration, etc. Great question. Thank you for that. Nice uplifting question. Josh, your turn first, I think.
Yeah, I mean, comparable cities. I think San Francisco has been faced with a lot of the issues that we have on a much larger scale, and I think as a community, they've come together and have had some very proactive solutions. One of which being declaring homelessness as a public health emergency, and that's what it should be right here in Minneapolis. So I support that.
That's a great question. This is going to come as a shock to almost everyone, being that I'm the socialist up here. But I think that Michael Bloomberg, when it came to addressing the streets, addressing pedestrian vibrancy and pedestrian safety, the approach that he took was, let's do it quick, let's do it fast, and let's see what happens. And if it works well, we'll improve upon it, and if it doesn't, we'll take it away. That's the kind of making results happen now that I want to see in the city. That's the kind of action that I want to see. Now, there's plenty of things about him I do not like, and we can list those all night. But on this, in being willing to try something, being willing to do something now, and if it works, build on it, and if it doesn't, try something else.
All right, we've got a rogue question over here, but I do want to hear it. What did he try?
Oh yeah, Times Square used to be a place where traffic sat. It used to be a place where there were cars not moving because traffic was so bad. He and his city made it pedestrianized, and so now Times Square is the place where everyone can come and gather, and is really a place that people come all over the world to come see.
Does anyone want to shout a question at Josh since Soren got one? What do we do about road construction? You know, maybe it's important long term, but it can have impacts on businesses and neighborhoods while it's happening.
Yeah, I think, really essentially is finding a happy medium, and first and foremost, listening to the business owners and what they need and what they expect. It's very unfortunate, at least in our ward specifically, that businesses are preemptively leaving Lindell Avenue. For one, Iron Door Pub has left. A business that's not in our ward, Lagos Tacos, both very successful businesses, has left as well. Preemptively, thinking of what that construction will do to their business and how it will harm them. That's not supporting our small business community whatsoever, and we need to be much more transparent and much more open to dialogue with our business owners, and be much more mindful of finding a medium ground of responsible reconstruction of our city streets.
I've talked a lot about creating a fund for businesses to access when their streets go under reconstruction. But something that this really raises for me is we're talking about how damaging street reconstruction projects are for businesses, and they very well can be. But at the same time, we're trying to rush a street reconstruction project in George Floyd Square. We need to be building vibrancy in our neighborhoods. We need to be building vibrancy on the 38th corridor along Nicollet. And so I want to see us going to businesses early and talking with them about a street reconstruction project, and going to the state and saying, this is actually a state issue. You need to put money in this fund so that we can keep our businesses all the way through these street reconstruction projects.
Where is that fund going to come from? Who's going to pay for that fund? Who's going to fund it?
All right, I'm sorry. I'm fighting for my life to preserve my rapid fire questions. I think you're going to really enjoy them. So I'm going to cut that off there if that's okay. I'm sorry. We should have left more time for audience questions, and if folks want to come up, we'll record them. Maybe we can do an email exchange.
Let's speak after as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go rapid fire. The idea here is a couple of words, a sentence or two at most. We'll do the same way, Josh, Soren, Josh, back and forth. And none of them have received these. If you want to say pass, totally understand. We'll go to Josh first. Will you respect the results of the convention endorsement?
No.
Soren?
I'm pretty confident I'll win, so I think
Whoa! Okay. all right. Okay, let's cool it down a little bit here. Soren, favorite coffee shop in Ward 8?
I think it's Bichota.
Say it again?
Bichota,
Oh,
George Floyd
the
Square.
one you mentioned. Josh?
I am a fan of Royal Grounds on Grand Avenue.
Okay. Josh, I guess we already touched on it, but rent control in Minneapolis, yes, no, or qualified?
As I said, it's qualified.
Soren?
Qualified.
Okay. Soren, who will you support for mayor in 2025? Sorry.
I'm not afraid to answer. I am excited that we are going to have at least 3 good quality candidates to rank who are not Jacob Pry.
All right, rapid fire. Josh?
Yeah, I'm not endorsing anyone at this moment, and I've had great conversations with Dr. Davis and Jazz and many other candidates, Koski before she stepped out. And the good news is we're in good hands with quite a few very bright folks.
Okay. All right, no more messing around here. Bike lanes, Josh, love them or leave them? Love them or leave them?
In July and August, I love them, but otherwise, it depends.
Soren, love them or leave them?
I love the good ones.
All right, this one's going back to Soren. Red light cameras, yes or no? Automated red light cameras.
Yes, you must stop at a red light. It is unacceptable to go at red lights.
Josh?
Absolutely, 110%.
Okay, agreement. All right, Josh, here's a tough one. Raise taxes or cut services?
I would like to be mindful as a council person towards the budget, but I would not like to raise taxes.
Okay. Soren, raise taxes or cut services?
Raise taxes on the wealthy.
All right, this is my last rapid fire question, and it's the hardest hitting by far. Soren, a foreign dignitary comes to Ward 8. What 3 places do you take them?
I take them to George Floyd Square first, and show them the monument and the memorial and the movement. I take them to Butter Bakery Cafe. You haven't experienced Ward 8 unless you've been there. And then I take them to Sabathany and show them the middle school that Prince went to.
Josh, host to a foreign dignitary, 3 places.
Yeah, so I'm a lifer, and so I've got really a lot of great spots in Ward 8. Absolutely George Floyd Square, and I currently bring any visitors that come to the city to absorb that corner. And then I would take them to my favorite park, Painter Park, and have a little kickball. And then the best community school in Ward 8, Lindale School, the Round School. It's a phenomenon of architecture, and I went there K through 6. My kids went there, and so I'm really proud of that school.
Okay, thank you both for hearing us. We were going to ask, can you name all 8 neighborhoods within the ward, but then the answering in order wouldn't really work. We'll figure that out for next time. Okay, so we're going to do closing statements here. I guess, Soren, are you all right going first? Okay, all right, so 2 minutes for these closing statements. Soren, go ahead. No rebuttals.
Over the last decade, we have seen current city leadership fail on so many issues, be it public safety, be it housing for everybody, be it addressing climate change and responding to become a resilient city, and be it police accountability so glaringly. It doesn't have to be that way. We can have a city where everyone has a safe place to call home at night, where you can afford to buy a home, you can afford to rent, you can afford to upsize, downsize, whatever you need to do. We can have a city where you feel safe to walk your dog at night, and where you can expect to be treated with dignity and respect by a Minneapolis police officer. We can have a city that is on the frontier of the fight against climate change and making our city resilient to ice, resilient to excess heat, things that we haven't had to deal with in the way that we're going to have to deal with in the future. We can have a city that is vibrant, that is fun, that is interesting, we can have this city. It's going to take sustained leadership at City Council. It's going to take someone who has firsthand experience with these issues. I do. And it's going to take someone who has the relationships to get it done. I am fortunate to be endorsed by Ilhan. I am fortunate to be endorsed by Irene Fernando and Angela Connolly at the county level to partner on homelessness. I'm fortunate to be endorsed by Greta Callahan on the school board to partner on having the best schools in the country. I'm fortunate to be endorsed by Unite Here, the hotel and hospitality union. I'm fortunate to be endorsed by sitting city council members, so I'll have people to go and right away start crafting policy with and get it passed. I have the relationships and the experience necessary to lead in this city and to make this city the vibrant, the active, and the beautiful place that it can and should be and that we know and love.
So, myself and many folks who I've talked to throughout the last several months have really had the same conclusion and the same sentiment that we've never been more concerned about the direction of our city than we have in the last couple of years. And I'm one who was raised not to admire a problem. I was someone raised to not just let things happen, but to do something about it as a change agent, you know? As a teenager, I was an uptown kid fighting racists in our city. I continued that onto college campuses, fighting racism on behalf of my friends and loved ones, people of color. On the neighborhood level, I volunteered for my neighborhood association on behalf of neighbors who demanded more equity and needed a voice in their community. As a labor organizer, I fought tooth and nail on behalf of working people every single day. And that's the spirit I intend on bringing to City Council. I intend on fighting for each and every one of you and the folks who you represent, your neighbors, your loved ones, your friends, with the same vigor, the same fighting spirit. And I expect us all to do this together with solidarity, with kindness, in the spirit of working together. And I fully expect to treat my colleagues at City Council with the same respect. My name is Josh Bassais, and I ask for your support humbly, and most importantly, I look forward to our continued conversations. Thank you.
Okay, big round of applause for both of our candidates. Josh and Soren. Good job. Okay, I think we got to get out of the building. Everyone's already stayed late to let us do this wonderful event.